This week we're going to ask Mark his opinion on a few things, and perhaps there's no right or wrong answer with these. We're going to ask Mark about a very playful, mouthy foxtrotter who keeps putting everything in his mouth. Should the owner just ignore it or stop it? A Palomino horse that is now shying and making the owner really nervous. Should she continue working with him or should she just move him on? And we're going to ask Mark about his opinion on alternative techniques like massage and stretching, red light and acupuncture. Are they really worth it? Welcome to Mark Langley's Horsemanship Podcast, where we look beyond surface behaviour to better understand how horses think, learn and respond. I'm Jenny Langley, joined by Australian horseman Mark Langley, as we answer questions from our online members and discuss alternative practical approaches to training that prioritises emotional balance, clarity and trust. Mark, I want to ask you about a horse that has come to your clinic. So you're familiar with the horse and the owner. Perhaps, hopefully, you might remember them. They came to your Gundagai clinic. This question comes from Nikki, who has lost her confidence on her Palomino horse. He is shying at every ride. Nikki's been riding him in the arena all this time. She's started to hold him quite tight for fear of him shying. She knows that's the wrong thing to do and is probably making things worse, but she's absolutely terrified. She's had several falls off a previous horse who kept spinning on her, and she had to move that horse on. She's now feeling that she's just not confident on this little Palomino with all of his shying. She's wondering, can you give us some tips for what she should be doing, or should she perhaps just move him on? What are your thoughts?
So I had to think back to Gundagai Clinic and this the little Palomino. He's like a little kind of semi-pony Palomino, like a little Arab sort of riding pony style of horse. You know, those ones that kind of, they can look a bit like they got eyes on sticks. And when I met him at Gundagai, he'd probably been shown a bit and done stuff, but he's got that really presents as a horse that's got quite a intense hyper focus off into the distance, carries a lot of worry in on the inside. And I think in the past he might have just been ridden with a lot of stress and tension and just zoning out and just looking off into the distance. And the clinic, we managed to get him to loosen up, travel soft, to start to follow the reins better, and for Nicky not to have the death grip on him because you think he's going to sort of just push all the time and go somewhere. But as a horse opens up and they have to be more responsible to think about their environment, it opens them up to things spooking. Now, it wouldn't have been good to keep him in the mindset of just staring off into the distance, because those horses still spook when you're unexpectedly as well. But he's only been a horse that seeks safety somewhere else, away from people and us, people and pressure. So that's the thing we have to look at. So, like, I would go back to some groundwork. If you're feeling unsafe and you're feeling that you're kind of slowly kind of gripping on those reins, and you're nervous, as you trap him more on the reins, he's just going to bottle up as well. So it's not going to help by trying to ride him through if he's going to keep the same mindset that he's always had. So you got to look at three things. One, pressure. How can he cope with pressure? And I think because he's ridden before you had him in the mindset of, I feel trapped and I need to be somewhere else, he still feels like that. So first of all, he has to learn to follow the feel of pressure. So one of the best lessons, I think, to put horses back and follow feel and be encompassed by pressure all around them is long reining. So, backing up in the long rein, standing quietly, moving around. So just put a holder on him, a soft holder, and just put those reins on him and just roll him around in those long reins and walk up and handle him and then back him up and just get him so comfortable at following the feel of pressure. And at least on the ground, you got your feet on the ground, you're not got the death grip on him, and you're safer, okay? And I would, when I've got a combination like you and him, which I have quite a lot at clinics, of a horse that's starting to get quite nervous and spooky, the rider doesn't want to go to hospital, they feel unsafe, they don't know what to do, I say, turn your horse into a cart horse, and when your horse is a soft cart horse, then you'll probably find you've got a soft riding horse. but at least you've done the work and the safety of the ground, and you've created softness, because you could do anything with that horse and he would see pressure as a trap. And then he's got to carry a rider feeling trapped with pressure that he's not confident about doing either. So first of all, the trust in you, you're approaching him, you're being around him, that he has to trust you. Secondly, he has to trust pressure, that it's not a trap, it's a guiding pathway. The thing about long reining that's good is the reins go all the way around him. He moves his hind feet, and create direction through those reins, not just correction or boundaries. Okay, so yes, there are boundaries in the sense of our reinsmanship and long reining, but the primary reason to put reins on a horse and long reins and then steering reins when we ride is to direct a horse, not trap a horse. Okay, so he's only ever had reins as boundaries, not directions, and that's why he feels so trapped. So when you're doing your long reining, we're walking backwards, we're moving around, we're turning, we're moving, and just watch him till he turns loose in that small space. And I imagine that I've got the horse inside a little tiny elevator and they're dancing loosely inside an elevator, not feeling trapped that they have to be out of the elevator, okay? And then when they're loose inside that small space and the reins can kind of be all the way around them and they're moving softly, then you might go forward somewhere, and then if he starts to march and go off, with those long thoughts out into the distance, then you might pick up on those long reins again and say, now back up, bring your thoughts back, come back in the elevator, be comfortable in this space, thank you. Now let's go again for a little walk, until he's very soft at guiding in a small, the idea of a small space, and then he's soft at walking out and he's not leaving and his thoughts are staying with you. And then you can sort of rub him with a rag on a stick and have it just behind his eyes and see if there's any areas that someone didn't fix back in the past that he's still kind of worried about stuff coming up behind him. And because he looks like a little horse that's probably been sent around in 50,000 lunging circles, that's half your battle as well, that mistrust of people because of all the sending away from people. And then we expect to ride a horse like that and sit on him after we've been sending him around in 50,000 circles. So, and that's also part of his past that you've got to think about. So the long reining will hopefully heal some of that as well. And then take the pressure off your ride, and so you're not, got to go and have Valium before you ride, and just take that pressure off yourself and him. See what you get out of long reining him for a fortnight, and then maybe we'll talk again.
Yep, reassess. Okay. And for this really playful young fox trotter who puts his mouth into, or wants to put everything into his mouth, I should say. So this is a question that's come through from Sharon, and she says the hose in his bucket, her grooming tools, if he can reach them, her stirrup, everything, including his lead rope, his reins, all goes into his mouth. She's finding as soon as she starts to lead him, he's got the lead rope in his mouth. Should she ignore it, or should she try to stop it? She's not quite sure. She knows it's a game with him, but he's never bitten her. She's very careful because he is so mouthy, and she hasn't given him treats, but she knows that the previous owner did.
Habits are habits no matter which way you look at it. The more we allow a habit to sort of stay there, the more it becomes a habit or stays with the horse. And if you look at a lot of horses that have a lot of curiosity, a lot of playfulness and stuff like that, then it's okay to express themselves and play with things, but eventually they do more and more of it. So if we look at different habits, we've got stress habits, which are like the wind sucking and the weaving and all those things that if crib biting, stuff like that. And then you've got these playful horses that are constantly poking, and playful horses that have bites on them in a herd all the time because they're constantly probing and poking, and then the other horses get annoyed with them all the time. Now, how does a horse stop that habit in another horse? Well, sometimes there needs to be a horse in a herd that says, "Oi, stay away," not come in. Like an example is some horses are allowed into their little small herd and they annoy the other horses. The other horses pin their ears, bite them, but the horse still comes back every single day. Whereas if that horse had a different herd with another horse that said no, that horse would say, "Don't come into my space if you're going to be like that. Don't even get near something that you can nibble and play with," especially if that's one of us. Okay, so it's the changing of thought that's most important. You can't let a horse into a space that has a certain thought and keep having that thought and keep going, no, 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 no all the time. Okay, you have to say let go of that thought. Sometimes that means a bigger that's not available. Okay, so with the playful horses, I usually would use a cautious disruption, as in I'm not cautious. The disruption makes the horse cautious. So it's a disruption that would have a little kind of a spook effect to them, till they go, what was that? And it changes, because a horse, remember, is a flight animal, and it's survived. So they some horses that have such a simple life of getting fed and playing with their mates, they've lost the art of caution and responsibility in a herd. So then they just like niddly diddly widdly all the time. They're just always kind of playing, flipping over buckets. They're bored, stuff like that. So sometimes by doing something that puts a little bit of a spook in them, it makes them go, oh, cautious. Okay, I've got to be aware. And then all of a sudden, the playfulness disappears and they go, I'm centered now. I'm not in playful mode. I'm in cautious mode. So that playful mode that your horse is in, when it's nibbling and fiddling things all the time, only has curiosity. It doesn't have any caution in it. And that's, if they go down that track for too long, then their curiosity killed the cat. Like I talked about, a lot. The horse that goes in the float and then spooks and runs out. Same sort of scenario. Goes in for the smell of hay and then realises it's in a float, but it didn't know how it got there because it was too busy thinking about the hay, not processing the journey on the way in. So with a horse like that, I'd do, instead of saying, don't nibble the rope, I'd maybe bang the flag really hard, and it goes, oh, I've got to be aware of the flag. I'm going to stop nibbling and be more aware. And then the nibbling disappears. Some people say let them do it. They're expressing themselves until they eventually stop doing it. But what if it becomes a habit? What if every time the horse is slightly anxious, it starts fiddling with things, and then one day it's slightly anxious and becomes a crib biter? What if down the track, it becomes a windsucker because of these little habits that stay with it? You've got to look at the whole sort of picture of where that horse is going in the future. So some horses only nibble when they're anxious, but when they're not anxious, they kind of quieten. And maybe your horse is a bit anxious and it's doing this, or maybe it is just playful and needs a distraction or a disruption to say, hey, let go of that.
It's quite hard to tell the difference between a horse that's anxious and a horse that's playful, I think.
Yeah, because sometimes they'll go and they're a bit bothered, so they do something about that bother, and they go, well, I'm going to go over to you and do this, and I'm not sure about that. So sometimes that happens with horses. So that bother creates little, they call it displacement behaviour, I suppose. And yeah, these little nibbly sort of behaviours are a form of displacement behaviour.
Mark, I'm going to ask you now about what your opinion is on different types of body work that people routinely get with their horses, just to help the horses stay, give them as much as we possibly can give them, I suppose. So these might include chiropractic work, massage work, posture rehabilitation, stretches, and also some of the alternative therapies like red light and acupuncture. Briar from New Zealand would like to know, do you think any of these are worth it? Because they do add to the cost of maintenance for performance horses. And she'd love to know what your opinion is.
Occupational therapists, we're all a form of I'm an occupational, if we look at it in a human sort of context, where, there's speech therapists, there's podiatrists, there's all sorts of different types of people out there to work on a certain part of a person's body. And then you've got the psychologists, and then you've got the other one that medicates, the psychologists and the psychiatrists. Okay, so then you've got the people who might say, do your stressed horse, give it some sort of calming paste to stop it from stressing, whereas a psychologist would go, but your horse is stressing because of this. There's that whole side to everything. But when it comes to sort of body work, the thing I learnt in the past, physical, the most important two physical areas that I've been taught in the past was the bits that touch the ground, the mouth and the feet. The two pieces of the horse that touch the ground is the physical part of the horse, which is going to be that has to be more correct for that horse to be correct. So if its feet are really bad, then basically its legs are bad and it doesn't hold the support the structure of the horse. So then other things in the shoulders get sore. And I had a lady did Bowen in Mudgee, and I thought she did a good job with horses, and I tried it, and one horse made a significant change through the Bowen that she did. But another horse, she looked straight down and said, just can you put a shoe on that foot just so that foundation has a bit more width on the inside? And she didn't do any Bowen on the horse. Now, some Bowen people would just do Bowen and not look at the feet. She didn't do Bowen. She looked at the foot and said, fix that. The next day, I shaped a shoe to do the support and put it on the horse that he needed. The next day after that, his shoulder, he was not sore at that point of the shoulder anymore. So that was basically another, the foot was incorrect, the shoulder was getting sore. So there's no point doing body work on the shoulder if the foot was out, not supporting the structure. So back to the 2 points of contact with the ground, the feet and the mouth. So the mouth, I've got a friend who's a dentist, and I've talked to dentists over the years, and we don't do a lot of dentistry on our own horses because when we do get dentistry done, they say because they're on pasture all the time, rough pasture, good pasture, their teeth are grinding nicely, but a lot of people don't have that. They've got dry paddocks and the horses are just on, certain types of man-made foods and hays that kind of they need more work. So when the mouth starts to get not grind properly, the mouth is not grinding properly every time the horse is chewing and stuff like that, that's going to start to create other problems through the spine that affect the horse's body as well. So for me, I believe that the 2 points of contact to the ground are the most important to look at, firstly and foremostly. When it comes to body work and stuff, I've seen chiropractic work do some really nice things with horses where I've seen they've had a wasted hindquarter and then they've adjusted their hips, and then all of a sudden that hindquarter's come back nice and round again because they're actually out. But I've had other people question it and say, especially one lady once, she bred endurance horses, and I asked her, and her husband's a very good horse vet, and she said, no, just spell them and work them correctly. She didn't believe in chiropractic work because they're too big of an animal. That was her thoughts on it. My biggest concern is people spending a lot of money on red light therapy, chiropractic work, all this sort of stuff, but having to do it every month because the horse is out for a certain reason. Now, what does a physiotherapist do with a person? It shows them what's wrong with their body. The physiotherapist might go through and say, right, your shoulder or your hip or whatever is misaligned, and I want you to do these 3 exercises every single day when you wake up, and make sure you do that exercise every single day till I see you again in a month or 2 months. So the physiotherapist or the chiropractor didn't fix, or even the chiropractor didn't fix the person. It was the exercises in between that kept the body or put the body back in alignment. So I believe education and correct riding, correct groundwork, correct everything is what makes a horse stay sound. Horses don't stay sound from body work. They don't stay sound from chiropractic work. They don't stay sound from red light therapy. They stay sound from the exercises they do in between and what we do in our education to keep them sound. Your horse may need chiropractic. It may need some things, and you may get some good results out of it, but it's not going to fix the horse if the horse is incorrect on its days off and its days with us working. So I think that's the biggest thing, and I think you'll save a lot of money if you understand how to get the feet balanced, okay, and then the education, the mind of the horse, so important. A soft mind takes the tension out of the body. Once the tension dissipates in the body, a horse sometimes just naturally starts to correct itself, and lamenesses will appear and then disappear, okay, because what I mean by a lameness appears, sometimes a tense horse, they're too tight and adrenalised to see lameness. When they go loose, they go lame. But then all of a sudden, because they've turned loose, we can work them correctly, and then they can get back into being less lame later on. Okay, so yeah, education is very important for keeping a horse sound, but I'm not going to go into every single sort of alternative method out there and say this is good, this is bad, because I haven't studied every method and done enough research on every single one of those methods to have any big input in it. To critique it. Just one thing I thought I'd add is there's a lot of horses that have had a very definite physical injury, and it's very necessary to get an alternative work done on that horse, whether it be some form of fascia release, muscle, skeletal stuff. So you have to do certain rehab that's going to bring in people who to work on the body. But as I said before, is the mind, the way we operate our horses in between is all part of the rehab process from injury as well. So that's also something to think about.
Thanks, Mark. We'll be back next week answering more of your questions. I hope to see you then.
Thanks, Jenny. Thanks, everybody.
If you'd like to help apply any of these ideas to your own horse, you can join Mark Langley online. The membership gives you access to Mark's full training library, detailed step-by-step exercises and regular Q&A support to help you better understand your horse's behaviour, training and emotional responses. It's designed to give people more practical, thoughtful solutions that help horses learn with confidence, softness and understanding. To find out more, head to marklangley.com.au and click join.